Hey everyone, want to give you a quick note about the show this week. We do have an awesome interview lined up for you with Coach Small, the coach of Str8 Rippin. However, I want to let you know this interview was recorded before the Str8 Rippin roster change was announced early hours Tuesday morning. So because of this, the roster has officially changed. No longer are Rynoob or Nated a part of Str8 Rippin. Instead, the '08 Str8 Rippin roster is 100% back. And that roster now includes T-Squared, Legit, Elamite Warrior, and Neighbor. In my opinion, this does make the interview with Coach Small all the more interesting because we do talk about roster changes and what his thoughts were on that old roster. So please check out the interview. We want your feedback. Let us know your thoughts. We appreciate it wholeheartedly. And with that being said, let's start the losers bracket. 72nd round of VV Gaming's Losers Bracket podcast, and this week we're going to start out with just a little bit of quick news. Want to start things out by letting you know that next week on June 28th at 7 p.m. Eastern, competitor passes will be going on sale for MLG Anaheim. Now, these tickets did sell out very quickly for Columbus. If you are going to be traveling to Anaheim to play in either Starcraft 2, Halo Reach, or Call of Duty Black Ops, make sure to be online 7 p.m. June 28th. Prices, so you know, Starcraft 2 competitor passes will be $70 each, Halo Reach team passes will be $280, and Call of Duty Black Ops will be $240. Once again, that is 7 p.m. on June 28th.
All right, everybody, I'm going to say this only once. Do not come to me complaining that, oh my God, I didn't get my pass. Be online, ready to go. As soon as that goes live, make sure you have credit card or whatever you need in hand and get your pass because they will sell out. A lot of people are like, oh, maybe not Anaheim. Do not take any chances. Be there. Be ready to make your purchase. Guarantee that you, or in the event of Halo or Call of Duty, your team has a pass because you do not want to be left out.
I could definitely see a lot of Korean players coming over and playing in StarCraft 2 at Anaheim. So definitely, since there is a chance that that will happen, make sure you do not miss out on your passes. Speaking of Koreans and StarCraft 2, if you have not seen, the GSL Super Tournament did just come to an end recently. In a stunning victory, Pulp Prime did defeat the MLG Columbus champion, MMA, 4-0 in a complete sweep. Guys, pretty impressive. What are your thoughts?
Jason, I've got to tell you, Pulp Prime looked completely polished. He looked focused, and he looked ready. MMA, he just won Columbus. Something in his eyes just looked like he just wasn't even prepared for it.
I personally think the big story here is it shows that even though he did win MLG Columbus, anyone on any given day is beatable, especially in this new beast that is StarCraft 2. Considering that anybody is beatable and everyone has their time to shine at some point, let's talk a little bit about Huck and what just happened at DreamHack Summer 2011. Huck did have a breakout tournament performance in Sweden just this past week, where he finished 5-0 in his group play, went through the entire tournament, came from behind against Moon in the finals to take the tournament victory 3-2. Jerry, I know that you are watching this. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, you couldn't get me away from DreamHack all weekend. There were some amazing matches, and Huck has just made history, right? This is the first time a foreigner has won a tournament that Koreans were at. You know, Huck represented North America in a phenomenal way. I've been a Huck fan since last year. I think that I've made that public here. So, you know, I was rooting for him. But to watch him play Moon, I felt throughout the entire tournament, as you mentioned, he was 5-0. I mean, I think he went 15 and I forget what it was, like 15-1 or 15-3. He hardly lost any matches. And then the finals, he's down 2-1. Moon makes a mistake and he capitalizes it. And then it's the fifth and final match, and Moon, who's an aggressive player, decides he's going to almost go all in. Huck reads it right, and it's over. Huck is the champion of DreamHack, and I thought it was, the most fantastic moment. If you want to see all the matches, Day 9 TV has them. I mean, look, there were some amazing matches. I mean, Bobber versus Moon in the semifinals. On the other side, you had Huck versus July Zerg. These are moments, right, that, to be honest, I think if you love StarCraft, you have to love these kind of matches. If you're not that into StarCraft, you're new to StarCraft, these are must-see matches. These are some of those pivotal moments that are so exciting. And I got to give hats off to Day 9 for being flawless. I think the best moment in the finals, it's match 5, and this is obviously Huck versus Moon. Huck is in that match, and once it becomes evident that Moon is going to 6-pool, Day 9 drops down the chat box and just puts OMG in there. And I think everybody started laughing because we knew, based on Moon's decision, it was either going to work or not. And it became evident that Huck saw it, and watching Huck get thrown up into the air. I mean, I think hats off to the Team Liquid crew. Hats off to Huck. It's just a great day in competitive gaming and in esports for everyone. So I thought it was fantastic. A great job by DreamHack. A great job by Day 9. The Apollo was okay, but Day 9 again, just it's always a pleasure to watch him. So all in all, fantastic event. I can't say enough about it.
I have to agree with you. And yet again, StarCraft 2 shows its legs. It shows why it is the game to currently be watching in the world of competitive gaming. We say it quite frequently right now, but it really feels like the game has changed now that StarCraft 2 has arrived.
Jason, I've got to tell you, I watched DreamHack for the first time this weekend, and since I come from a competitive Halo background, I was not really knowing what to expect from competitive StarCraft because I've played the first StarCraft, but only played the campaign, never stepped my foot into the waters of competitive StarCraft. But I've got to tell you, I am so motivated to try StarCraft on a competitive level in the coming months. To watch it with Day 9's commentary, someone like me was able to understand it immediately because of the way Day 9 explained it. So, like y'all said, if you're not paying attention to StarCraft 2, then, get on board.
Completely true. One of the best things about watching some of these streams is the commentary that is involved with this. To give a shout out to one of our community members from VV Diehard, she was watching a StarCraft stream from DreamHack, and she has no competitive gaming background before this whatsoever. And she was talking to me earlier and said, it was amazing. I put it on. I listened to the commentary. It was just like listening to another kind of sports event, whether that be hockey or football or baseball. And she understood it just from listening to the commentary. And she is not alone in this. I have a lot of friends that have never gotten into competitive gaming that enjoy watching the StarCraft stream just because it's easy to understand with people such as Day 9 that are giving us these explanations. That's why things like the soundproof booths at MLG are so huge. I am so pumped up about the future of competitive gaming.
And before we leave StarCraft, I just want to remind everyone, Wednesday night StarCraft, VV Gaming. Every week we bring you our VVV A-team against another organization in a clan war, King of the Hill type format. So Wednesday night, stay tuned to our shout box, stay tuned to our social media, our Twitter feed, and make sure you're subscribed to our Justin TV channel so you get the notification when we go live every Wednesday night for Wednesday night StarCraft.
I do believe our very own VV Ruff did all kill the latest competition in last week's Wednesday night StarCraft. Stay tuned for more hijinks this coming Wednesday night. This week to discuss some Halo Reach news, we have one of the top coaches in MLG currently. You might know him if you follow Str8 Rippin at all. His name is Coach Small, Everett Coleman. Everett, welcome to the Losers Bracket, my friend. And for those that don't know who you are, if you could give us a little bit of information about yourself. Who is Everett, and how did you get into the MLG scene?
Oh, first of all, thanks for having me. And it's really kind of an interesting story to how I got involved as far as competing in MLG. I kind of found out about MLG in the late days of Halo 2, early Halo 3. And I started out just like a lot of other people with just competing online and, playing the MLG playlist and that kind of stuff. I ended up going to my first tournament in Columbus, Ohio in, I guess it was '09. And I drove 27 hours from Texas up to make the trip. And I actually didn't even have a team for that tournament. I just went to check it out and see what MLG was all about. So I guess as time went on, I kind of got more interested in the league. And I actually started out running a couple small-scale websites and just getting involved any way I could. And the more I started to market myself and network myself, the more I met people. So I got a team together and ended up going to Dallas that year. And really didn't do all that well, but I was still motivated to keep competing and keep playing and get better. So I stuck with it. And I guess after a couple of tournaments, I realized that I wanted to make the switch to coaching. And I just felt like it was a better place for me to be and that I could really make a big impact on the scene of coaching. So I picked that up and joined Ambush for my first team as a pro coach. And that went really well for my first event. And then the more I stuck with it, I guess the more teams I went through. So I ended up going through heaven and earth and give me my money, and now here I am on Str8 Rippin. So it's been quite a ride.
Let me hop in here real quick because coaching in itself, before we get into the specifics of Str8 Ripping and what you do, I wanted to sort of ask you really a broad question. A lot of people that start out as players find it very tough to become credible as a coach. What do you think got you on the right track and helped you get that credibility early on to make you the respected coach that you are today?
I guess really what happened was, as a player, I always constantly found myself on new teams, and each team that I jumped to never had an actual serious coach. It was either a friend or somebody that was around at the tournament. We never really had a coach that was on the team to coach. It was just kind of on the team. And so I guess each tournament that I went through, I kind of started developing this idea in my head of, okay, well, if I had a really serious coach right now, this is what I would want him to be doing. And because I was always playing at a tournament with that void, it kind of just showed how important that the role of a coach actually could be to a team, if it's used correctly. Once I went through and competed, I just kind of kept thinking, it would be really nice to have a coach doing this, this, and this. And I guess when I decided, okay, I'm going to switch and I'm going to set down the controller once and for all and start coaching, I kind of had a really good idea of what I wanted from a coach as a player. So as a coach, that's what I was going to do for my team. And I just sort of started building up from that and came up with the techniques, I guess, that I use today.
And here you are now coaching the team that just took second place at MLG Columbus, which is pretty darn impressive, might I add. Since we don't know as much about the person behind the coach, if you could give us a little bit of info into who is Everett Coleman as a person, aside from just the coaching side of things. What do you do outside of gaming, school, work, things of that nature?
Well, I just graduated high school and looking to go to Baylor University for college, studying computer engineering, computer science, game design, all that kind of stuff. I've been into web design a couple of years. I've done it professionally for about the last 4 years or so. So I really got an early interest in that. And, that also is kind of what helped get me into gaming, really, was just my interest in web design and things of that sort. I guess, I used to be really into things like parkour, which I did for about a year. I had a group together in southern Texas. I was a professional card magician for about a year. And it seemed really growing up that I just had a whole lot of crazy hobbies that I was really interested in. And I couldn't really exactly find what I wanted to stick with. So I spent, a year here doing this and, switched to something completely different the year after that. And, I finally found myself in gaming and figured, this is something I could really stick with and this is something that I could really make something out of. So that's kind of the direction I took with everything, and it's been a blast so far. So I'm enjoying it, and that's what I'm planning on sticking with for a little while.
Coach Small, I want to ask you a question. How important is it for fans to cheer and show support for their favorite teams?
Gosh, I mean, there's really no better feeling than, being up on the featured station or being up on main stage and just hearing people scream out your team or your gamer tag or anything like that. It really gives you that extra drive that you need sometimes to even take over a game or even win a series. I remember from last tournament, we were up on main stage for a bunch of the matches on Sunday, and we had a few games on featured station where I would just look out into the crowd in between, games or something like that, and just seeing people cheer for our team is just, it's really an amazing feeling, and it just gives you that drive and that huge rush of adrenaline that, it really gives you the desire to perform your absolute best so that you can keep the fans happy and keep the energy in the room. So it's really a pretty amazing feeling.
It's so funny to hear our very own Smith asking that question when I can remember back from Columbus being on the side of Active Rush. Active Rush was playing against Str8 Rippin. You guys were playing on the featured station towards the front of the venue. And Smith, being the hype man that he is, was there cheering as loud as he could, yelling, screaming. And I could see the guys from Str8 Rippin, even though they did end up winning that match, you could see them getting a little bit frustrated at times just because of Smith making as much noise as he was. So I know exactly what you're talking about, Everett. Definitely can change the tide in a match. And now, speaking of Str8 Rippin, how is the team currently doing? Can you give us an update? What's the roster looking like? I think everything's still the same right now. Can you give us a little bit of info on how Straight's looking for Anaheim and beyond?
Sure. I mean, after Columbus, we all kind of went our separate direction for about a week or two. I came back and had some things I had to take care of at home, catch up with a couple people. T-Squared went straight from the event to E3, so he was busy with that for a few days. And I know Legit was busy off doing a couple things of his own. We all sort of came back into the game a few days ago and picked up practice. And, obviously we're going to be a little bit rusty after taking that much time off of Halo. But after a tournament like that, then you really just got to take a break and clear your mind of everything and, just kind of let yourself ease your way back into it. So it's not just like Halo overdrive every single day. Now that we've been kind of practicing a couple days, there was a little bit of an interesting surprise about 6 o'clock in the morning last night. Kind of threw everyone, didn't really know what was going on there. I feel like we have a better idea of how the situation's being handled now. And as of now, we are looking to stick together just like we originally were after the tournament. So if things go as planned, we're going to be keeping the same roster in Anaheim, and hopefully we continue that roster throughout the rest of the season because, we've already shown early on that it's a really successful lineup. So I don't really feel like there's any reason to change.
Coach Small, how did you become the coach of Str8 Rippin? What path did you follow to reach that point in your career?
Well, I guess after the opener, I was teaming with Give Me My Money, and it was a team that I really had a great time with, had a ton of fun, and really actually did pretty well at the tournament. We missed top 6 by 2 kills, and we sort of had the impression that we were going to be sticking together with that team, and I was pretty set on that. I guess what happened a week or so later is, there was a little bit of conflict, and we ended up not holding true to that. We split up, and a few people went their separate way. And I sort of had the decision of whether or not I wanted to stick with that team or if I wanted to go and explore my options. Seeing how that roster actually changed as much as it did, I really didn't feel like that was even the same team I'd coached before. I felt like it was a completely new team just playing under that team name. So at that point, it was sort of like, I stayed on good terms with all of them, but I really wanted to see what other teams were going to happen, what teams were forming. I knew I had a couple of options that if I chose to, I could, get into talking with those guys and see if we could work something out there. Before too long, I sort of started seeing the pieces of this team come together. I saw T-Squared splitting ways with Instinct and Nathan and Legit, looking to form a new team. I just slowly started seeing that everything actually could fall into place if it all, went our way, I guess. And so, I started making some phone calls. T-Squared and I have a little bit of a history, so we had kind of talked about this type of situation before. So I wanted to see what was going on for sure and really get involved and, see exactly what was going through everyone's head. A few days went by, and the team really started coming together. They started running games and started going really well. So I was pretty set. I knew that if this team happened, that this was the team I wanted to be on 100%. They finalized the roster, and I got the call from T-Squared, and I have to say it was the easiest decision of my entire career because this, since I even started competing, has been a dream team. So really excited that, for one, that I was given the opportunity, and I'm just glad it all worked out for everyone.
And we can definitely say that it did work out for everyone, as that you did end up taking a very impressive second place in MLG Columbus. So once again, congratulations there. One thing that I had noticed is that you had mentioned quite a few things. Earlier on, you had mentioned you wanted to stick with the same roster for Anaheim and beyond if possible. You'd mentioned that you didn't like the changes in Give Me My Money's roster. You know, you wanted to kind of keep things very similar. Now, we had mentioned things like this in the past in the losers bracket where we don't necessarily like having roster changes. We think that, you know, chemistry builds over time. I'm curious on your opinion, though. What do you think of the current roster change plague that happens, so to say, with the MLG scene, how pro players will jump from team to team? What are your thoughts on that? How rosters don't normally tend to stick together. Do you have any feelings one way or the other about that?
Yeah, this is actually something I talk about quite a bit because I really feel like it's probably one of the biggest issues with the league. I mean, the way I've kind of described it, I really don't feel like there's any better explanation for it, but it really feels like from one tournament to the next, it's just teams are being randomly generated and just, you know, it's almost like going in and just playing matchmaking. You never know what team you're going to be on from one tournament to the next. And, you know, I mean, it really looks like going into like a tournament, it's really what group of 4 people do the best with 2 months of practice. You know, it's not like actual teams. It's not, more often than not, players don't even really have a whole lot of loyalty to whatever team they're on. You know, I mean, you've got certain players that are going to stick with whatever team through thick and thin, but for the majority, it's really, you know, you can't even really consider a team your team because next tournament you're probably going to be teaming with 4 completely different players. I mean, I think it is a pretty big issue, and teams like Status Quo, you know, mad props to them for actually sticking it out, and, you know, it was nice to see them come out with a tournament win because it's the teams like that, in my opinion, really deserve being rewarded for being able to stick together and working out their issues. Kind of the way situations need to be handled is if, you know, if you're looking at your current team that you have, you know the problems that lie within that team. And having a roster change is only going to bring on a set of problems that you honestly have no clue what those problems are going to be until you get there. So, you know, just working with what you have and, you know, the situation with our team, I feel like we all get along really well and we place really well as a team. So, you know, with those 2 things in line, there's really no reason to split up. And I think that more teams just need to start realizing that come experience and come time, then those little issues can be worked out. And it's not the best solution to every problem to just switch around players. And I think that's really going to show up this season, especially with a lot of the new talent coming through.
You know, I want to kind of go at this from a little bit different angle. If you had to look at the MLG system and run it yourself, is there something the league can do or should do that could make teams more consistent? Or do you think teams themselves really want to change and it's just there's nothing we can do?
Really, I think it's just going to come to a time where the players and the teams themselves realize how big of an issue this actually is, because I don't think it's necessarily right for the league to maybe penalize people for roster changes. I think there may be necessary to have a little bit more strict of like pro player movement periods and that kind of stuff. But I mean, I really think it's just going to come from over time. People are going to start realizing that the teams that are sticking together and working it out are eventually going to start getting the better placings and, you know, becoming those more successful teams. So I don't think it's so much in the league's hands as it is just something in the minds of the players just clicking and realizing, okay, well, we've got something started here. We have a really strong foundation and we just need to build off of it and go from there.
In a way, I want to press this a little bit farther because, you know, waiting for teams to realize, as you said, you know, MLG's been around for a long time. Teams want their freedom, but, you know, part of the challenge of a team game, which, you know, is that in order for somebody to root for a team, there's got to be some kind of consistency. And as we all know, that's really not something that any of the first-person shooter games, whether it was Gears or Halo, is really known for its consistency. And now things have sort of changed because Starcraft has arrived on scene. As a sort of Halo coach and talking to a lot of Halo pro players, what is your opinion on the arrival of Starcraft and how has that affected Halo, if it has at all?
I don't know that it's so much really affected the Halo scene as it is really broadened the horizons for MLG. I think it's great that MLG is able to take on this new game and really expand the company. As far as Halo is concerned, it is a little bit, you know, humbling to be standing on main stage and the entire crowd is cheering for StarCraft 2 when, you know, it's a really important matchup on the main stage for you. So I don't know that it's so much changing much of the Halo scene as it is just sort of realizing that there is a bit of a bigger force out there. Obviously, we still take Halo just as seriously, regardless of what other games are going on. And there's always going to be those diehard Halo fans that really stick with us till the very end. So I guess in terms of StarCraft 2 showing up, it's really just good for MLG more than anything else.
And looking to the future of Halo, of course, we do have the announcements of Halo 4, Halo 5, Halo 6 coming in the coming years. Do you think that this is going to be good for competitive play? I mean, with Halo 4 coming out next year, there's a good chance we might only have Reach on the circuit for 2 years. What are your thoughts on that?
I guess really I have to look at it the same way that I saw Halo 3 to Halo Reach. When we made that transition, I kind of wish that there was one more season of Halo 3 just to kind of finish some unsettled business. But I guess with looking at these new Halo games and Halo Reach, as much as I love Halo Reach, it's always exciting to have a new game come out and go through all those steps. I really think at this point it is way too early for a new game because I really don't feel like Halo Reach is going to have that absolute fine-tuned level of competitive play until maybe 2, 3, or 4 seasons into it, just as you kind of saw in the last couple of Halo games. So I think just through time, Halo Reach is going to become just that much more exciting, and it'll kind of be sad to see a new game take its spot if Halo Reach doesn't even get the chance to reach its full potential. So I'm hoping that Halo Reach will just stick around long enough for everyone to really master the game and really show improvement and show what really you are capable of doing on Halo Reach. And then come time for it, if a new game comes out and MLG decides to pick that up, then we're going to go into that just with the same fire and same mentality that we took on Halo Reach with. So I guess I'm just waiting to hear what the league has planned for us.
Understandable, especially considering that, who knows, we do have the Halo CE remake coming out at the end of this year as well. There's always a possibility. They have said that will be running on the Halo Reach engine and that there will be more multiplayer capabilities in that game. So, I don't know. I mean, were you a fan of Halo 1 personally?
Halo 1, I think, was a great game purely because it was such a skill-based game. But, I mean, I do think with a lot of the new additions to the game, like armored classes and different types of weapons and, player movement and all that kind of stuff, I think Halo is really only getting better. So,
well, what would your feelings be if MLG were to explore the Halo CE remake? Would that be something that you would personally be interested in?
I mean, I think I'd be interested in, but like I said, I still think Halo Reach is too young to really replace it with another game. I know MLG's talked about, maybe doing side events and that kind of stuff. I think something like that would be interesting just until the game is really, brought under MLG's wing and really perfected for competitive play. But I think at the moment, really, we just need to stick with Halo Reach and just spend at least, 2 or 3 more seasons.
Everett, I think something that I've always been curious about is behind the scenes, being a coach of a team with players like T-Squared. I want to get a feel for who you feel are some of the top competitors right now in Halo. Which players do you think are, the role models, the players that have impressed you with what they do for the whole Halo community? Who would you say are some of those role models, and what makes them a role model in your eyes?
Gosh, well, I got to give a lot of credit to the people like T-Squared and Legit and Nated. They've been around for a really long time in the league, and they've kind of shown how you can really transition through each different type of Halo game and really master different aspects of the game. Obviously, people like Ogre 2, really all of Instinct, Status Quo, for example, sets a really good, role model for other teams. And also, a lot of credit goes out to some of the newcomers because they sort of have a different take on games like Halo Reach than, say, some of the Halo 3 or Halo 2 pros. So that was kind of really interesting to see how these new names just come out of nowhere and sort of, approach the game differently than some of the other pros with sort of a different amount of experience. So, we're all learning a whole lot from everybody. And it's kind of been really interesting to see league veterans, like Legit and Nated, learn things from, players like Ryan Noob. And I guess just as the game moves on and players start to learn new things, everybody just as a whole is just going to get a whole lot better at the game. And something that's, to me, is really interesting about the nature of Halo is that it's so conversational and players learn how to get better at the game. They adapt to different situations really through other players that they compete against or that they team with. So mad props to all those players that are just coming out and really learning the whole game really in depth and just kind of taking it from different approaches.
And as far as the league is concerned, what are some of the challenges do you think the players have? If you were sitting in a pro player meeting, what would you say is probably one of the largest concerns or some of the things that the pro players are critical about that they feel Major League Gaming could improve. They say these are the things Major League Gaming could improve to make either the experience for pro players or the experience for Halo fans better.
Some of the things that are kind of common trends now at the last couple pro meetings, one being, with the new pool play system in place, a lot of us are really big fans of it. Some think that there are a few different things that, should be changed up with it. I know MLG is really doing a good job putting in the amount of work and the amount of time to really perfect the pool play system. So I'm kind of excited to see a few little changes maybe coming up with that. Not sure exactly what's going on there because I do think the system in place right now is relatively good. But there's always room for improvement, I feel like. Another thing is that I feel like with the new games coming out, it's still Halo Reach. It's been out for a little while now, but it's still a little early to really have mastered the game on a competitive level. And so I think as time passes, you're going to start to see maybe more maps, more game types, and that kind of thing as MLG sort of realizes and figures out exactly how good this game really can be for competitive play.
We keep talking about the future, competitive play. I really want to know what's in the future for Str8 Rippin. What are you guys expecting to do with Anaheim? Do you have any sort of placement predictions for yourself and the team?
We go into every tournament with the expectation of placing nothing lower than first place. And I really think with this lineup and the amount of firepower that we have behind us right now and really the extreme confidence that we have going into this next tournament, I think that that's definitely a standard that we can reach and, expectations we can fulfill. So, throughout the rest of the season, I'm really just expecting Str8 to be on top and just continue to get better every day as we have been and just keep learning from each other and just, working out those little kinks in the game. And we all sort of feel like, we know the game really well and we've been playing close to perfect Halo. So we're hoping that we can find those little errors and little mistakes here and there and, just kind of work those issues out. And then we'll be in the finals pretty much for the rest of the season.
I like that confidence in your voice. Final question for you. The way Instinct played at Columbus, are they beatable? What are your thoughts on the team? And do you think if you met up with them this time, would the results be any different? What are your thoughts?
Really, I think what made last tournament so tough is that we ended up playing Instinct on Saturday, and we can all agree that Saturday was definitely our not the best day that we had for the tournament. Having said that, we met them back up in the finals, and we were already down that 3-0. So that was really something difficult to look at going into the finals. We all tried to build up our confidence and think, it's just 3 games that they have on us. We can still come back. We can still blow this off. But we just had a few things that had they had gone differently, then, we would have been able to make something out of it. I think after having us, played as many matches as we did, we actually ended up winning more matches than any team in the entire tournament based off of where we started in the losers bracket. I really think with that going into the finals, already being down 3 games, we just got to the point where we were really just running out of gas. So looking, to next tournament, we've beaten Instinct before. We've done it on Xbox Live, we've done it on LAN at the LAN network in Chicago. They've obviously beaten us, so it's really just going to come down to who's playing their best at the tournament, and hopefully we'll spend from now until then just doing everything we can just to keep getting better and better. But I definitely think Instinct is beatable.
Everett, I really like your personality. You, sir, have a great mindset. Thank you so much for coming on to the Losers Bracket this week, and I definitely want to wish you the best of luck at Anaheim and beyond. I do want to let everybody know that you are working on a podcast of your own that's going to be starting here in the future. If you could you give a little bit of details about the show, what you're planning to do with it to our listeners?
Yeah, Small Talk is the name of the show, and basically what it is it's it's a podcast that we're calling Driven by the Community but Delivered by the Pros. And what I think is interesting about this is that the panel that we now have, which actually finalized just a few days ago, and I'm really, really proud of this panel. Happy to announce that it's myself, Cheeky, Diesel, and Nezer as the pro coaches, and then my teammate Naded, Clutch, Arcanum, and Ghost Almy as the 4 pro players. So it's a really interesting panel. I feel like we have a really good mix of people. We cover a lot of ground with this group of 8 people, and I'm really excited just to see what all we are capable of producing. One of the interesting things I feel about the podcast is, a lot of the news that goes on and a lot of the talk about the competitive Halo scene is really about us, and it's really about our teams and, our past and the tournaments that we go through and, what's going on with this player and what's going on with this team. And I feel like with this panel, we are able to reach a lot of questions and get out that information, be the first ones to do it and, do it well and really deliver accurate information. So what I think is interesting is that we're working with these group of people, but at the same time, we're trying to do this in a sense that we have such a strong community interaction to where the community is actually the ones that sort of put together the podcast for us, and with talking points and questions and all that, and then we're the ones to actually do the recording of the podcast, publishing, and we deliver what the community wants to hear. So I think it's a really unique podcast, and I think it's a really interesting take on some of the news and some of the rumors that are going on in the competitive scene.
Well, I look forward to hearing Small Talk once it officially does come out, is in production. Hopefully, we can get you back on the show to talk about it once it is underway. And Everett, I would like to thank you once again for stopping by the show. Before you head out, were there any shout-outs that you wanted to give?
I mean, I just got to give shout-outs to all my friends and family that have really been the ones to help me get to this point. I remember some of the original conversations that I had before I got into all of this craziness. And just looking back on that now and just seeing how far it's come in just, a little bit over a year is really mind-blowing to me. Shout-outs to them. Shout-out to my teammates, obviously. Amazing team. And I've had a really great time so far. I look forward to many to come. Guess that's all I got. Trying to do some giveaways right now on Twitter, trying to get a couple more Twitter followers and really just expand my following individually. So that's what I'm spending a lot of time in right now. So follow me on Twitter at MLG Small.
Speaking for myself and the rest of the VVV community, want to thank you for coming on the show and spending some time with us on the Losers Bracket.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Really glad that you could tune in this week and share some of your time with us. Thanks for stopping by for the 72nd episode of VV Gaming's Losers Bracket podcast. Another big shout out to Coach Small for joining us on this episode. We enjoyed having him. Big thanks to VV sponsors SteelSeries, Gamer Grub, Control Freak, MusicSkins.com, and Custom Ink. Another huge shout out, as always, to the VV Gaming community. Your constant feedback and support is what keeps this show alive. Thank you so much. Be sure to stop by our podcast homepage. The website is vvvgaming.podbean.com. You can also subscribe to us on iTunes. Just search for VV Gaming. This show will come right up. Any sort of suggestions, comments, feedback, concerns, questions, email them to us. The email address is thelosersbracket@vv-gaming.com. You could also follow this show on Twitter. We are simply known there as Losers Bracket.
Want to give a big shout out, as always, to the VV community and to Coach Small for coming on board the Losers Bracket. Very much appreciated.
I want to give a shout out to our guest this week, Coach Small. I really appreciate him coming on the show. Also to the staff, who I know have been working on all kinds of new things for VV Gaming, from the logo to the website as we move to sort of the next level. I love it. It keeps getting more and more exciting. So thanks for that. And I also want to give a shout out to both of you. Thank you, as always, for co-hosting with me.
A big thank you to both yourself, Jerry, and Smith. I very much enjoy my time here on the show with the both of you. Other shout-outs, I want to thank everybody that is currently giving us feedback. It is what helps me to continue editing this show and make it the best show possible for you all. Thank you so much. Big shout-out to everyone from the VV Gaming community that helped me in the contest that I was just recently in through my job. And another shout-out to another community, Hot Blooded Gaming. Some members from their site actually helped out with the contest as well. I really do appreciate it. Huge kudos. Thank you all so much. We will see you next week on the Losers Bracket. Have a wonderful weekend. Take care.